Writing TOK essay conclusions is actually the #1 piece of advice that I give to any of the students that I tutor. I'm going to give you 6 different examples, one from each of the May 2024 essay titles. Let's
get an A in TOK.
So if you look here on my screen, I'm going to give you all of the notes that I'm going to go through. So for the first thing you want to do is pause this video. It's okay. Pause the video and you want to go look at the link in the description and download these notes here. You can copy, you can steal. It's up to you. I don't suggest it, but be inspired by what I'm going to give you. Secondly, if you look at this link right here, you can find a link to my online store. I can look at your essay. I can give you a grade. My prices are really cheap, and I'm also the #1 online TOK tutor. Hit me up. I'll help you out. Next, if you look here, you can go to getanA.com/free stuff, and there I will give you outlines, examples, and a bunch of really helpful stuff for free. And then finally, if you really need some help, check out tokmasterclass.com. It's an online, on-demand video TOK course with me. If your TOK teacher sucks, guess what? I've got a video on that. But also, you've got a new TOK teacher, and it's this guy, okay? But you want some stuff for free. So I'm going to show you 3 different, again, download my notes, 3 different ways of organizing a conclusion. Now, here's the deal. Conclusions are not summaries. A summary would be, yesterday I went to work and came home from work and watched TV and went to bed. What a boring day. A conclusion would be, yesterday I went to work, came home from work, ate dinner, and went to bed. I conclude that Patrick is a very boring person. I conclude that Patrick has no friends. So a conclusion is a new piece of knowledge that you come up with based on what you've learned. So I'm going to give you 3 things to do here. Option 1, evaluate your argument. So use this option to make it clear which side of the title you are on. This is good because it stands out from not being in the middle. 90% of conclusions I read say, I agree with the title, but not always. There is some middle ground. We must always be well-rounded. Screw that. I don't care. So use this conclusion. First, state your position towards the title. So you would say, I'm looking at title 5 here. After discussing both sides of the arguments, it is clear that we do not need custodians of knowledge. Okay? Then, after making the statement, which you actually can say also in your thesis, give the reasons why you believe this by evaluating, not summarizing, your evidence. Tell your reader why the evidence in one side is stronger than the other. Don't summarize. Also, don't summarize. Yeah. Okay, so here's an example of a summary. And by the way, remember, you can download all of this. Just don't copy it because it'll get flagged for plagiarism in like 10 seconds. Okay. Do we need custodians of knowledge? Discuss with reference to 2 areas of knowledge. After discussing both sides of the argument, it is clear that we do not need custodians of knowledge. So right there, you read that right here. Though this discussion might not have been relevant for the majority of human history, what is it supposed to say here? For most of the human history? Microsoft, you're stupid. The technological arguments discussed previously have helped me come to this conclusion. So I'm not going to discuss these again. I'm not going to summarize them again. I'm just saying, based on what I said, here's what I now believe. Traditionally, and you're going to see my perspective here, you can use this. Traditionally, experts have been white, educated, and wealthy members of university staff, at least in academic terms. Though this has provided many benefits, which were discussed above, these experts can get it wrong because they are in their own closed academic bubble. Knowledge can be better disseminated and cared for, 2 of the key roles for a knowledge custodian. And remember, that's something that you need to define for yourself in your essay. So if I said knowledge custodians disseminate knowledge and care for knowledge, then I'm going to say that. By the masses in an open online environment. So that's my answer. I'm going the technological approach, which I previewed in my video. As I discussed in my paragraph about, pick an example, the online community was just as effective at sharing and producing knowledge, but it was done more quickly and in a more equitable way. Knowledge custodians had to be employed in a specific manner in the past, but this is no longer true. So I am saying today we don't need knowledge custodians. Instead, a democratic, faceless knowledge custodian can occur that is not a group of people, but rather the internet acting for all. Additionally, knowledge custodians were initially conceived to be a small, educated few. That's in the article that I shared in my in both of my my breakdown video and my Title V video. When comparing the original definition from the 1960s to what we have available to us now, I would rather trust a global consensus rather than a small number of people. Overall, the advent of the internet its inherent equitability, and the vast number of perspectives that it produces proves that we do not need knowledge, custodians of knowledge. So again, I clearly answer the title one more time. Now, so what I've done here is I am drawing conclusions based on the things that I've already said. So if you've got some analysis there, you can keep a little bit of it right until the end. But I did no summary there. As I discussed earlier, the online community was this way, and now I'm saying it's more equitable. And I'm saying here that because it's equitable, it's replacing something in the past. Okay? So that is the evaluate your arguments. You are saying why one side is better than the other. If you want to read another example, I have one for Title 2 here. Now take a look before I move on. I have 250 words in my conclusion here. That is great. You can only pull this off if you have 150 words for your introduction, 300 words for your body paragraphs, and 250 for your conclusion. That's really what you want to do if you're hoping to score well. Okay, the next approach I call the personal approach, and I love this. And if you've seen my video about introductions, this is kind of going to bookend something. You can introduce the title by talking about yourself. You can close by talking about yourself. Let's see what my thoughts were when I wrote this an hour ago. Though top scores rarely write in the first person, I encourage you to do so when and the introduction and the conclusion if you engage the personal approaches in these paragraphs. In these paragraphs, this is my way of proofreading. There are many ways that you can engage upon this approach, and it may be similar to option 3, the application and lesson. So the next example that you'll see is going to teach a lesson. This could be the same thing, but you're looking at it for yourself, not for all of humanity. What you want to do here is think about a way that the knowledge you have gained in your research, so this requires you do research, has helped you grow as a person, change your thinking, or something like these. Please note, here's what you don't want to do. I see this all the time. I hate this garbage. I just tell people you're an idiot. I'm just kidding. I don't do that. I promise I don't do that. Please hire me as a tutor. In conclusion, this is bad. We are too quick to assume that the most recent evidence is inevitably the strongest. Okay, good first sentence. Assuming that things are true too quickly can turn us into simple, one-dimensional people. That's okay. Instead, get ready for it. We want to be risk takers and global citizens that evaluate all perspectives in an empathetic and equitable way. When I encounter a new problem, I want to make sure that I am able to change the world and invest in underserved populations. Kill me. To make sure that my dreams come true, I know that critical thinking skills, such as the ones taught in TOK and other IB courses, are the key to being a well-educated, lifelong learner. Gosh, this is so bad. But guess what? I see it all the time. This is called pandering. Don't try to make them like you because you're saying, I love school. No, you will. If you want to make them like you, prove that when they grade this paper, that it actually helped you in some aspect of life. So, let's see. Which one do I want to read? Yeah, I'm going to read this first one. So for Title 6, remember there's Title 3 right here. I'm not going to read it in this video, but you can read it for yourself when you download this document. Okay, in conclusion, we are not too quick to assume that the most recent evidence is inevitably the strongest. Though this is a dense and important epistemological concept, the lessons that can be learned can be easily internalized. Previous points identify that simple human bias, preferences against underrepresented nationalities and genders specifically, are often overlooked when discoveries are made. Though these examples demonstrate that we are not too quick to assume that new evidence is the strongest, it makes me wonder if we should be too quick to assume that, or we should be quick to assume that recent evidence is the strongest. This reminds me of, so now we're getting into the personal approach, a time in which a weak student in my class offered an interpretation of Shakespeare that seemed to be far-fetched. Everyone laughed at him. Ooh, Microsoft, add a comma, I'll bet. Yeah. And we collectively moved on to a new point. The only problem was, of course, he was right. His experience as a Catholic helped him understand the imagery and symbolism that was commonly understood by Shakespeare's audience. We quickly assumed that this new knowledge was not strong, and were wrong because of our biases. Being responsible, yet quick, may be the goal of learners in today's world. We should separate knowledge from the knower, and quickly assume that it is strong and potentially correct. So there I kind of get into some sappy feelings, but the same way I say, here's something that happened to me, here's how that title applies, and here's what we can learn. Okay, you can look at Title 3 down here. We're going to go to the last one, which is probably the most common, teaching an application or lesson. Similar to option 2, the final option seeks to find an application that may be broader and more universal in scope. So this is saying, here's what happened to me. Now we're going to talk about, here's what all humans do. With that said, still seek to find tangible and specific ways that this lesson is both true and course changing. I didn't want to say life changing because TOK is probably not life changing, but course changing. I did think this, now I think this. While the lesson or application doesn't have to be a wild new approach towards living, see, show the examiner that the time you spent writing was well worth it. Show them that you actually benefited from this awful experience called IB and TOK. I know. Oh, watch my video on why your TOK teacher sucks. That's a good one. Okay, let's see. We're going to do this one right here. Do we underestimate the challenges of taking knowledge? I hate this one. I don't even want to read it. I hate it so much. In closing, I need a drink. It's water. Definitely water. That's some good water. In closing, when we take knowledge out of its, come on, Patrick, out of its original context, it is easy and common to underestimate the challenges of applying this knowledge. The effects can often be detrimental to people, communities, and our collective knowledge as a race. So what I'm going to do is say what happens overall when we do this. I really like this response. You can tweak it, make it your own. As explored earlier, taking knowledge out of one context and applying it to another often relies on summary, generalization, and the ignoring of facts, some of which may be important. So now I'm going to say what happens when we do this. All of these practices, helpful for the transition of knowledge, rely on removing key aspects of the knowledge for the sake of application, whether it be for convenience, public policy, or the creation of new art. So here, I'm referring to my past examples, just referring to them, not summarizing them. Ignoring aspects of a concept or theory just to favor some other parts of the knowledge should never be done, as it will most likely lead to mistakes and potential harm. Because context swapping, I like that phrase, context swapping relies on so many compromises, experts and amateurs alike should be wary to transfer knowledge from one context to another. They should overestimate, not underestimate, the challenges. How many words is that? That's not terribly long. Let's see, 150, 150. It's not even telling me. That's weird. 166, all right? So that is how you conclude a TOK essay. If you need some questions, hit me up in the comments. Check me out at fiverr.com/PatFreakinJones, and I will help you out. I hope TOK sucks a little bit less than it did at the end of this video. I'll see you next time.